Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 2023 Starman Virtual Cider Tasting and Gathering event. I am Scott Ramsey, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York Cider Association, and it is thrilling to be here. I believe this is the third time we've done this for this winter tasting package from these amazing cider producers up in the Finger Lakes region. I'm going to introduce them now, just some incredible producers and people to boot. So we have Autumn Socek from Eve's Cidery, we have Melissa Madden from Open Spaces Cider, and we have Eric Schott from Redbyrd Cider, all in the Finger Lakes region. So hopefully most of you who are joining us have received your kits, and if you haven't, you're certainly welcome to join along. But I'm also equally thrilled to welcome Michael Jon Morgan, who is a Kiowa Choctaw visual artist and gallery owner, who is located in St. Petersburg, Florida. He leads the Native Conversations FLX curation team, and we're going to be hearing a lot more about that in tonight's tasting. And he has a love of art, history, and the Western landscape, and his art conveys the translates the riches and strengths of his Native American culture to the world. So this is going to be a really, really beautiful tasting experience. We're going to go through some of the ciders that you hopefully have gotten in your kit, and we'll talk a little bit more about those with each of the cider makers, and we'll also talk to Michael Jon quite a bit more about the work he's doing around Native Conversations FLX and his art. So before we get started, just some housekeeping rules. We are recording this, so please just keep that in mind. Their capability will just have us on the screen, but if you share comments or anything, those might get recorded. We also do want you to comment and join in the conversation with us. So you should see on the platform you're on, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, you can go right into your comment section and type in a question or a thought, and we'll certainly answer those questions as they come in. We are going to have time at the end for more questions and conversation, so feel free to hold on to your thoughts until then or ask along the way. It's totally up to you. This is meant to be very conversational and just a good time as we go along. So let's just jump right in. I think Autumn, actually, before we do that, Melissa, did you want to talk any more sort of about the inspiration of how this has been a process for you all for the last 3 years, and certainly how a lot of what's happening tonight was inspired by last year's cider tasting as well?
Sure. Audio still good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. We have, I think, at least 50% returning members this time. So folks can also drop comments if you want to correct anything I'm saying from your past experiences with us. But Autumn and Eric and Deva, who's Eric's partner at Redbyrd, and I have been having a lot of conversations about how to use our businesses. First, we were using the word reparations quite a bit, which folks might remember from the past 3 packages. And originally we were working with a land access group in Ithaca and doing the same sort of fundraising style where, 70 to 80% of the fee was paid first to the organization, and then the rest was for packaging. And that was a really phenomenal experience with all of you. Thank you so much. I think we were really overwhelmed by the amount of positive feedback we got for it. And we did use the tasting platform to talk about the concept of reparations. But I know for me, and I think this is true for the other cideries as well, but I'll let them say so themselves. The more we dug into it, the more it felt like we just were kind of not really using the word properly, I would say. Adam, would you agree with that? Me saying it that way?
Sure.
Okay, we started to feel more and more like really uncomfortable putting ourselves in a position of any kind of authority on such a big topic, and at the same time we still wanted to continue to use the resources of our cidery and our relationships with you all to make some kind of contribution. And one of the beautiful things that happened through the past 2 packages is it went from working with our friend Brad DeFries, who asked me to check out Travis Mamaday's work, and we worked with him last winter. And in that, we started talking about a gallery show. Travis is also Kiowa and Seneca Cayuga, and lives currently in Arizona, but he did live in Oklahoma. And so he was talking about how to get up to Ithaca. And through that, we sort of realized that I think the three of us really feel like art is a huge part of what we do, although it is seen, I guess, technically as manufacturing or farming. And so we were really excited to make a shift to really supporting art. And then I want to let Michael say kind of more about the heart and soul of what the goal of Native Conversations is. But that has been where we've evolved to, is using the donate, the 72% value of the package to donate towards supporting the Native Conversations show, which is a month-long show that's going to run in June. We'll be opening on the first Friday, June 2nd, downtown Ithaca, running for a month. And I do want to let Michael say the rest about that, but it's super exciting because as of this package, then the goal we set is fully funded, and it means we can invite and pay for artists that Michael selects to come. So I'll let him say more about that when we get to it. Are there any little things I should have said about the past packages?
I think that was great. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's wonderful. So Michael, as Melissa said, we were going to get to you, but we want to start tasting some cider along the way too, right? So before we talk about your amazing work with the Native Conversations Finger Lakes, Autumn, let's jump in with you. I want to get to some of that amazing Autumn's Gold from Eve's Cidery. Yay. So tell us about it.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say that it's not, Autumn's Gold is not named after me, because I feel self-conscious because it seems like, I don't know, prideful or something. But
it's very well deserved if it was, I know we've had this conversation, but
it's more just that James came up with the name for what has become sort of our signature, like our house blend or whatever, gosh, like 20 years ago. And it sounds good because it's kind of like it's like a very golden color, and apples, autumn, and it just happens to be that my name is Autumn as well. So and that's a whole other story, why I was named Autumn and then became an orchardist and cider maker. I guess it's just like fate or something. So so the Autumn's Gold is a blend, and it's not the same blend every year in terms of like the percentages or even the apple varieties that go into it. It's more like kind of like a vision for a flavor profile, and that is one that is sort of like dominated by bittersweet apple. So in this case, if you have the bottle, the varieties are on the back, and really the kind of very like smoky tannic qualities in the cider are being contributed by the Ellis bitter, and but differently, I guess, maybe from, if you're familiar at all with drinking like English bittersweet ciders, which Ellis bitter is an English variety, we kind of brought our own, I guess, our own like aesthetic sense to, just to stick with the art language, to what like sort of we love, and so that aspect of it is that it's like a bit more acidic. It's a little bit more tart and has a lot of aromatic punch. And so we often use the variety Ida Red in this blend because Ida Red ferments to have like these sort of really kind of like red apple flavors that I really like. So we'll do the fermentation. Many of these are barrels that are fermented separately, and once they've reached dryness, we think about how we want to put the blend together, and we'll make up several different iterations and try to come to a blend that we find a lot of synergy in. And then we blend it and put it in the bottle and do a secondary fermentation. So that's where the bubbles come from. It's made similarly to champagne. And after it undergoes the secondary fermentation, we disgorge the yeast and then we send it out to you.
And it's amazing and so special. It's really, really phenomenal. So you've been making this for 20 years, did you say?
We started making, well, this is going to be our 21st year.
Wow.
23. Yeah.
And so talk to me a little bit. I'm always amazed by, given the fact that it is such a blend with all these different amazing varieties, like how do you, over the course of time, sort of maintain what you believe to be Autumn's Gold and how you put that forward, and yet still have such a variety of blends over time? Like, how does that happen from year to year?
I don't think we do, actually.
Fair answer.
Well, I would say, well, this actually, Melissa's probably been in on this conversation to a certain extent, which is like, how much do you make what you love and not try to think about other things like consistency or, but still have something that, people can have a basic expectation for what's going to show up in the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, sort of more to your question, how has our palates like evolved over the course of 21 years? And one thing I would say is our access to like the amount of good cider that's available now that we like can taste and draw inspiration from is certainly, much greater than it was 20 years ago. And so I think that's like just sort of as a sort of like broader thing that's existing, is that the more people are joining the cider making community and making ciders with well-grown cider specific fruit, the more like we are all able to like play off of each other and be inspired by each other. So
that's great. Yeah, that makes such sense. And I mean, it's amazing to me. I've been in this role with the Cider Association for 3 years, and just the growth in that time has been incredible. And when the association was started, I think 7 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago now, there were just a handful of cider makers, and now there's over 100 licensed cider producers in New York State, and that's nothing to like not take seriously. That's pretty amazing. So I love how you're saying like it does open up that opportunity to really start to see other, taste profiles and to have those experiences. Do you think it makes it more complicated for you, or does it sharpen your sensibility around producing Autumn's Gold?
I don't think maybe like either. I think it's just that as the way that we make cider is, we only make cider from our own fruit, and that gives us a very small, it's like the rules of the game are like really like strict, you know what I mean? And so we have to like work within what basically the season gives us, which is, especially like in our situation, our orchard is certified organic. So we tend to like have a lot of biennialism. So for example, what varieties we actually have enough of is just being dictated by Mother Nature, as is the sugar content and how they taste each year. And so, but we only make cider from fruit that grows here on Albee Hill, and so when other people are growing varieties and that we grow, and they're growing them somewhere else, and then we get to taste them, and it sort of expands our minds around what the potential in that variety is, and I think it's just expansive, I guess.
Yeah. And speaking of Albee Hill, I was in Woodstock on Friday night, had a really amazing dinner at Sylvia, and was drinking Albee Hill with dinner. Nice. With a really amazing pork chop. It was incredible. It was amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. It's so exciting to go out and start to see again, like more and more of all of your amazing ciders on the menu in places like that is, and really, in very thoughtful restaurants, which was great. So that's nice. Awesome. So if anybody has any comments or questions for Autumn, feel free to drop them in the comments section. Depending upon which platform you're on, either YouTube or Facebook, you can certainly add in some comments. I want to, Michael, come back to you and talk a little bit more about the Native Conversations FLX. Is that the right way to say it, or is it Native Conversations Finger Lakes? How do you typically say it?
I think we've just been using FLX here lately, but
awesome.
Whatever.
Good. Yeah. So tell me more about it.
Well, it's going to be a show. We're still, starting out, looking at different artists and pursuing that aspect of it. But the goal really is to, and it's even a personal goal of mine, is to make a way for other Native artists to be able to express themselves and build themselves up as an artist. So I'm sorry, I had dental work done. I got this thing in my mouth, and I'm hard. Sometimes I have.
That's okay.
Anyway.
No,
It'll be out. It'll be out in a month. But anyway, yeah. So for the goal really is there's a lot of artists out there that they don't have access to be able to go forward with their art, and I think this is an important place. It's be a good platform for them to be exposed to, to potential buyers or even to the market itself. Hopefully, generate some experience for some, and then not just artists that are brand new, but artists that are early in their career, even possibly.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to and it's a way to build up their confidence. And I just think it's important because there's not a lot of good avenues for that. Especially just growing up as an artist myself, it can be tough. And
yeah, so tell me more about that. I want to know more about your background. Where did you grow up? Sort of what got you into the art scene?
Yeah, I grew up in Oklahoma. I guess I've been drawing since I was old enough to hold a pencil. So since I was like 3. I started painting at about 5, I guess, something like that, with acrylics, and then I evolved into oils later. I went to a few state schools, took art programs, and then I went to an art institute in Colorado and went to school there. But the thing that I think that as an artist that helped me the most was just learning from other great painters and being able to copy what they did and try to, look a little closer and see how they solve problems. So that was sort of my journey, was just trying to get better. And I think it's a thing that you do your whole life as an artist, or probably even in your own crafts, as far as what you guys do. You gain experience, you get better, each year.
Absolutely.
And, but what I'm excited about doing this show with you guys is that it's a platform that's going to be good to expose people into that process, and maybe they can get there a little quicker, even possibly than having to just claw and work 100 jobs. And I remember I guess it's part of your question about what got me into art, but I remember there's an artist. When I was in high school, I wasn't a very good student, and my art wasn't that great. And I applied for this school actually in Santa Fe because that's where I wanted to go. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to go there, And I visited there as a kid a couple of times, but they rejected me, And I understand as a bad student and as a horrible artist as I was at the time. But I received a letter from
probably not completely true, but we're going to go with it.
Oh, no, it was. But I received a letter from my grandmother's friend, and he was a prominent artist there out of New Mexico, and he hand wrote me this letter and basically said that, the way of an artist is just a lot of hard work, and it's not just about developing your skill and your craft, but there's a big part of marketing, big part of that side of the business, which is with any business. And you don't want to hear that when you're 18 years old. You think you're just going to paint and conquer the world, but really it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of dedication. A lot of, you need to find mentors. You need to do all these different steps that you have to do to climb in this business. And this show here would be an avenue to be able to do that, with, to be able to expose some of these Native artists. So this is the process of growing as an artist. If you want to make a career at it, or if you have statements, or you want to use your art to form, sometimes it can be used, art can be used powerfully. It's like a political influence, can be used in lots of ways. It has through, thousands of years. So if that's your goal, you still need to be exposed. You still need to be able to have a way to share your message. And anyway, that's why I'm excited to be a part of this. I believe in it. I think it's going to be something very productive. We're going to work really hard to make it really nice, and I know it'll turn out really good. So
that's fantastic. Where is it going to be? Do you have a gallery space, or is it one specific location?
Oh, okay. Well, the gallery. So I have a gallery here in St. Pete, and but I'm actually in transition, like right now. I have some other opportunities of another location. It's just kind of complicated. So that's going on like literally right now.
Great.
But a gallery space is good, and shows are good. But getting your work out there and getting all the work done. Sometimes the gallery and running a gallery is a whole different thing than being an artist. It's another hat, which kind of lines up with what we're doing here with you guys. It's a different aspect of art. It's more the business side of it, but and it's important too. But
yes,
I definitely feel more called and interested more into the paint than the business side, just so you have to pay bills. So
of course, I think that's such an interesting. It's a very contemporary commentary, I think, on being any sort of type of artist or producer in any sort of space, because the gift and joy of producing is fantastic, and then also you have to also have some sort of marketing sensibility, right, or understanding of how to get it out to the universe, because the means of communication, the way we do that in 2023 are very, very different, and there's so much more accessibility. So I'm always fascinated by that.
Yeah.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Michael. When you're done, I have a couple things to add.
Oh no, I was just going to say, with the internet and with everything that we have now available to us, the sky's the limit. Really, we haven't even tapped into the potential of what this is all going to become one day.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah.
Well, I failed to acknowledge some of the other people that are making this happen. And I don't know if Zoe or Ben from History Center here, or Mike Gill from CNY Corridor. But I think that was to kind of tie it back to that idea of moving from a reparations framework to a fundraising framework. We have all these entities that came out of the woodwork after last year to sort of support bringing this show to Ithaca. So we do have a gallery that was coordinated by the History Center. It's the CAP Art Space. It's right in downtown, I was just going to ask Michael if you could just talk a little bit about that. I met Michael through Travis Mamade, who's the artist who did Starman, which you received. And so Ben is on. Awesome. Hi, Ben. And
Avery's on as well, it looks like.
Yes. And I was told specifically by Travis that you, Michael, you and Travis had met each other through the Walking in Two Worlds show that you put together. And I was really inspired by the concept of that show. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, that's a show that we put together here in St. Pete right before COVID. We want to make it an annual show, but COVID really kind of threw things off.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we had singing and dancing. We had what do we have? Like 7 or 8 native artists. I have to think about that. But Ethan Candy Fire. We had Travis Gordon Imhula. We had. I guess it was about 7 artists. But anyway, the show was really successful. Everyone just really loved it, and it was something that we also offered some native food. We tried to just come up with a whole experience to downtown St. Pete of native culture. So we had song, we had dance, we had food, we had touch everything, and we had different events scheduled. And then my friend Vanessa Cersei, she's South American, so we made the show sort of indigenous to kind of tie in her with her artwork, because she's from Colombia, but she really involved, her and her husband, with raising money and funding to help South Americans with a lot of things, and villages and stuff. and she's a wonderful artist. And so she and I together just kind of worked her tails off to put this show together at this really great location at the time, downtown. And it's something that we definitely want to fire back up again. It's I could just see something like that even being a little bit of a larger scale with more singing and maybe like a weekend event. Actually, it's a pretty good concept.
That's great.
And it's been done before. It's nothing that we, invented or anything, but down here it's pretty rare. Yeah. It's not something that
highlight. Yeah, exactly. For the region that you're in. And, just to let people know, I mean, it sounds seamless the way you're talking about it, but it's no small feat. I mean, it's a lot of work to pull all the artists together, get the space coordinated, all those amazing other elements that you're including, food and dance and music like that. That sounds phenomenal. Like that's a giant project. Well done.
Yeah, I passed out the next day. I slept for like 2 days. It must all the fiber I ate too, but anyway.
Exactly. So is there a date that's set for the show that's going to happen is it Cap 21, Melissa, did you say?
It's called the Community Arts Partnership Art Space.
Okay.
And Ben could drop more specific directional information into the chat if he wants. But what I was going to add to Michael is that we do have one poet who's local to Ithaca, Monty Campbell, and we're still working on the rest of the concept because we were so inspired by the Walking in Two Worlds format. I think at one point I had thought Travis had kind of compared it to a powwow, but that may not be appropriate. But really like a very multi-media sort of approach. And so the show that we're producing is a month-long gallery show, which means it'll be focused mostly on visual artists, but we are going to have an opening weekend starting with June 2nd, which is the first Friday. And I don't think we're there yet knowing how it's going to go, but we do have the option to do some of those things. Right, Michael?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
For sure.
Excellent.
Cool.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, and I'm certain that as more information comes available, we can all make that available to our broader audiences as well. So that's great.
Sure.
There's one more thing I was remiss in saying. I guess this is just the theme for me. And yeah, it'll go deep when we get into my cider. But we do, one of the other elements is that there are a couple language carriers who are part of the show. And so the idea of naming it Native Conversations Present, Past, and Future was very specifically something that Stephen Henhock, who is a Guyacono language carrier who also lives in Ithaca, thought of when we were planning the show. And remember that conversation, Michael? It was one of our many Zoom conversations last March. And his emphasis, which I always just really appreciate, was on present culture creation and not so much focusing on this idea of the past, but really celebrating present culture. So I've just thrown that into the pot of all the things that Michael said in terms of like why we think this show is important.
It's fantastic. Excellent. I love that idea of thinking about what's happening currently, talking about the present. I think that really resonates with me. I love that. That's great. And so we're seeing some folks commenting about the loving the cider so far. And to that point, I want to keep going with the ciders. So Eric, you're up. We're going to enjoy some of your amazing cider. Tell us a little bit about what we have here in the box.
Okay, absolutely. Sorry if I missed the introduction, had some technical problems, but I'm back. And I'm really proud about this cider. So I guess I'll go back a little bit. In like Autumn, Autumn has been an apple grower and cider maker for 20 some years, and I'm around 15 or so. And kind of what Michael was saying, there's many, being an artist, there's many different crafts, right? There's many different aspects. And for us orchardists, we have the orchard art, and then we have the cider making art. So it's really two different things, and we have this beautiful opportunity to blend them together to make these ciders. And so when we grow apples and we experiment with all these different varieties, we over time develop a really beautiful relationship with the different personalities of different varieties, the growth habits, their seasonality when they ripen, the colors of the fruit, the flavors, obviously, all that, becomes a really special part of growing apples. And so in 2021, this past harvest at Redbyrd here, we had a really, really beautiful, bountiful harvest. And we were able to make 6 different ciders that were all from just 2 or 3 apple varieties. And that was really special because, most years we kind of mostly threw apples together into like big blends. So because we had a bountiful crop in 2021, we were able to make all these really specific blends. And so this is one of those blends, and it's 3 apples. It's Somerset Red Streak, which is a European classic bittersweet cider apple, which lends a unique character to the cider. And it happens to be, you get that kind of smoky, like beeswax character. That's like a real interesting translation of, the cider's relationship to the apple. And then the Zabergah is a German, I believe, originally bred as like a pie apple because it's a really big apple. It's like as big as a grapefruit. And so as far as like the efficiency of peeling fruit to then cut them and make, baked goods, the larger the apple, the more efficient, because peeling, 100 small apples is a task, and peeling 3 Zabergahs is easier. So the Zabergah is one of these russets that has this really unique kind of nutty, not so much high acid, but more earthy, again, like earthy, nutty flavors. And the third apple in this blend is Roxbury Russet, which is an old North American variety that does have a fair amount of acidity to it. So again, it's a russet, so it has those russet characteristics, and it has the acidity. So those 3 apples together, in my artistic mind of cider making, was like a really good way to bring like the bittersweet beeswax character with the nuttiness of the Zabergah and the acidity of the Roxbury Russet. And therefore, this is the cider that resulted. And so I think, like in the artistry of making cider, focusing on single varietals or dual varietals or triple varietals like this cider, you kind of you have the opportunity to sort of understand the apples a little bit better in their translation from apples to cider. So that's the, and also I'll mention, this cider, it went through a secondary fermentation in the bottle. It was not disgorged, so there's still sediment in the bottom, which, is personal preference of whether you want to consume that or not. It's completely healthy. And I don't know. What do we think? Are we enjoying it?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm loving the smoky. I've always been a fan of that sort of smoky kind of layer, and I'm getting that so much from these this year. It's really good. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a unique flavor component that very specific apples carry through, which is cool. It's another part of the learning process, right?
Yeah, and tell me, and Melissa, I know you have a question I wanted to ask real quickly. Eric, tell me a little bit more. Like, you did such a good job of describing sort of the different apples in your brain. And I also love the language artist. Thank you for using that language, because I describe you all as artists all the time, which is why I think this whole package kit idea that you all do is such an awesome thing, because it's all the same, right? It's creativity, it's mindfulness, it's just all that. So tell me, Eric, a little bit about when you start to piece together these different varietals and you're thinking of, taste profiles and things. How is that process for you?
Well, for me, I think over time I've really loved being able to simply depend on the flashes of inspiration that come throughout the growing season. Mm-hmm. And that's just sort of like, when you're in the thick of harvest and you don't have a lot of time to do other things, sometimes you just kind of like, realize things, and it's just like, boom, perfect. These two.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's also the convenience that makes it just flow also. So
Yeah.
Like for instance, here's a good example. Another cider that I made from these blends last year was a Tompkins King Stoke Red blend. And it just so happened that I had a half bin, which was 10 bushels of Tompkins King, and I was picking Stoke Red the next day. And I thought to myself, these 10 bushels of Stoke Red are going to fit perfectly in that half bin of Tompkins King. So I put them there. And then the next thought was, I'm just going to press them together because they're already in the same bin. So that's an example of a convenience artistic move. But a lot of times, you just kind of, as the season unfolds and you see what fruit you have, things become more obvious, I think.
Yeah. Well, convenience, yes, but also 15 years of experience and understanding to know that like there's probably something there, right? Like it's always that thing people say they're lucky, but you can't discount the background that it took to get you to that place to be lucky, or the place that it took you to understand that convenience, right?
Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. It's also kind of like what Autumn was saying around, all of the apples for her ciders are they're grown on Albee Hill. So like that's your palate. And I love that idea too. I mean, artists, Michael, I'm sure you can attest to this, frequently what you produce is defined by your palette that you're working with, right? And what your tools and resources are to create that. So I think that's really special. And I love how that comes through both in art and in cider making. It's incredible. So Melissa, you had a question, I think.
Well, I've had to write the name to this cider down a bunch of times, and I was wondering what your nickname for it is, because and my mom is sitting next to me. She said, "But what is the name of this cider?" And I said, "It really is Somerset Red Streak, Zabergau Rennet, Roxbury Russet." And I was wondering what your nickname is.
My nickname for it?
For this cider, yeah, I have like 4.
I just write SRSZAB.
Senior Zab or something. I don't know. We got to
Senior Zab, yeah.
Yeah.
Zab.
You notice I didn't even try to say the name of it when I introduced it, right? Like I was just going to leave that to you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. So Melissa, let's go to your cider.
Okay. I hope everyone got the warnings. I was really trying to hammer them. And so I have already opened mine because I want to do over sync. So I was just going to give everyone a second if you need to open it. Nice job, Eric. The reason that it is the way that it is that, okay, let's watch Autumn do it. I'm not excited to see this.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Oh, did you just crack it, Autumn? Just a little crack? Give me this.
I'm just doing it slowly.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. Just trying to avoid you having it become a lost thing all over the surface of something in your house. So thanks for bearing with me. This is a pet nat. So I actually think it fits well into the end of this. Thank you, Scott, because it's a naturally sparkling cider also. But it's naturally sparkling because I put it into the bottle while it was still going through primary fermentation, and it finished fermenting in the bottle. And I continue to make a series of mistakes around my decision making on that. And I would say so Autumn and Eric are certainly my mentors in this. And I've been a farmer for over 20 years, but in a bunch of ways, I'm still getting my feet under me as a cider maker for Open Spaces, and I don't own almost any equipment. So a lot of my decision making is, I wouldn't even say it's convenience. It's like how much energy I have left before I collapse to get the right thing done. And pet
also a key ingredient.
Yeah, right. And I have been very well supported by Eve Cidery and Redbyrd Cider in terms of I press with Eric. I've also pressed with Autumn. I borrow a bunch of equipment. Been able to I forage all of the fruit. So pet nats have turned out to be a really good style for me, and I am honing them, but I keep screwing it up, and I'm pretty sure that I even screwed up my 2022s. And instead of sending it out like this, I'm just going to disgorge it, which is a whole other thing, which I'll get into in a second. But just to say briefly about the cider while you're getting your first taste of it. So this is 100% wild foraged, and this is mostly from actually the Finger Lakes National Forest, although we don't say that publicly. We need to bleep that out, Scott. And that feels really important to me because I think in terms of thinking about, I wrote an article that I would love to rewrite with better research on the transition of land ownership and land tenure in the Finger Lakes National Forest. It's a really fraught spot. And of course, it begins with land theft and genocide from the Cayuga and Seneca folks that were here, and actually continued to be a source of tension and displacement of different settlers as well. And currently is a really strange place, in my opinion, that I really like going to, but it's not a natural space. It's an unmanaged large grazing operation that's all contract grazing. So I have a lot of serious ethical issues with the National Forest that I would love to get into someday. But at the moment, I really appreciate being able to make a cider from those trees. And I think anyone who forages National Forest knows in our National Forest, in the Finger Lakes National Forest, if you go out there and can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I think my device is about to die. If you go out there and you know if something is about to be ripe, you need to get it because the second it falls on the ground, it will be eaten by cows. There's a whole situation about like poop adjacency for apples on the ground and all that stuff. So it's very much like a strange it's not a super regenerating space. And I feel like there's some really important activism to come there that I hope I'll have energy for in the future. But it's also a really rejuvenating space for me personally. I really love the fruit that I found out there. I can't believe these trees have survived our years of spongy moth infestations, the defoliations that happen in early summer, the defoliations that happen in late summer with the kind of constant threat of Marsanina that we have at this point. And in 2021, they had a huge crop and they went through 2 consecutive defoliations, and some of them still produced fruit in 2022. It absolutely blew my mind. It was a really magical experience because they're not getting any management or any support from anybody. And I don't feel like cows are like amazing partners for apple trees. I think sheep are really good partners for apple trees, and so are turkeys, but cows are like enough bigger that sometimes they can be very hard on them. So that's the only management that's happening out there. So that's the concept behind the cidery. It's open spaces because it's all foraged. And then it's more or less either bottled by time or by location. So this is called late harvest pet nat, which means this is all stuff I harvested in the second half of the season last year. And I had actually put the early harvest pet nat into the last package. It was called Early and Wild because I was done with it and I disgorged it in time for our package last January. And then I tend to, try to keep the fruit from the locations separate. But I also really have a very small amount of space and a small amount of time. So I think open spaces will only ever make 1 or 2 ciders a year. I continue to have about 5 jobs and like a lot of focus. And in terms of like, the business of the cidery, like Michael was, referring to in art, it's really nice. I used to own a much bigger cidery. I really appreciate the art of it. And I will pretty much do whatever it takes to protect that part of open spaces, including not counting on it for my livelihood and continuing to put it together. And I think that that's one of the nice things I feel really grateful about these packages that has really emphasized, when you feel expansive with something, what you can do with it. So, but I did make a series of mistakes and I hurt myself very badly making them. And I have a whole series of really hilarious videos of me disgorging it and like it just like going like straight up my nose and like straight into my ears. So, I think it makes it obvious that as far as the 3 of us go, I am definitely the young person in the room, still kind of finding my way.
I've seen some of those. I think I've seen all the social media posts of any of the cuts and stuff, and that was a little bit jarring.
Yeah, no one really appreciated that I put a bloody hand on the internet, but I thought it was important.
I think I probably hearted it, which is not necessarily the exact right approach, but you know.
Yeah. Lots of unsolicited advice about how to fix my problems. But I think that the point is not being afraid to try. And one of the things that was really nice, Eric and I collectively had ciders that we weren't happy with, which for me included all of my 2019 vintage and 75, and we dumped them to bulk collectively this spring and distilled that into brandy. So we'll have something pretty cool coming. I hope it's okay that I just said that, Eric. Pretty cool coming soon.
Stay tuned. So tell me, Melissa, I want to, I'm never a fan of an artist saying anything negative about themselves, certainly when it surrounds their process, but tell me a little bit more for you, like when there is that moment of like, this isn't what I wanted, or this isn't, I made a mistake. Like, what is that? What do you mean by that? And why do you feel that way?
Well, I think making a product that's hard to open is kind of a mistake if you're going to give it to anyone else. I think you don't want to have people afraid of your stuff. And then in the food safety world, like you don't want to have people harmed by your stuff. And I do raise meat, and I have battled that as well. And I do sell fresh fruit. So I feel like I kind of live in a food safety like world a little bit more than you do have to if it's just alcohol. And Autumn and Eric are much more qualified to talk about all the dangerous things that can happen with improperly created alcohol. But I think the big thing is just not having it be stressful for the consumer. Like, having to send out 3 emails to be like, you got to be really careful opening this. I screwed up and now everybody is paying the price with me. But that's at a very humorous level. I think that there are stories from some cideries, like if you have a really overcarbonated product, it can explode a bottle, So I don't know if you're asking me what like those mistakes look like, or if I just went on a total tangent. But
no, that's good.
My process is to be like aware that I have no idea what I'm doing, and less all the time, and really just not being worried about that anymore, but enjoying the craft.
Yeah. I think your sound just dropped out. I can't hear you. Yeah. So I'm going to come back to you, Melissa, because I want to ask one more question about that. But in the meantime, while we're talking about artistry and craft, Michael, let's go back to you. I want to talk more about your art, and we have some of it here to share. So tell us more. I'm going to bring up, can I bring up one of these pictures we were talking about, one of your prints?
Sure.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about this one.
Okay. It's actually a story. So when I painted it, it's from the idea of a lot of stories are told through song, and I think my thought on that is it helps you not only is it good for the community and for family, but it also helps the longevity of stories. And so this particular story I'm going to tell you didn't really have a song that we know of, but I think there was a song. I think it just was lost in antiquity, probably. So anyway, so the story is this, that there were 8 children playing, and that 7 of them were girls, and they were in the forest. And as they were, there's different versions of the story. Let me say it quickly. So this is just a quick one, but I tend to like the one, actually he's uncle to, or he could be a grandfather to Travis Momaday. Mom and Daddy, but the gentleman's name is Scott Momaday. He's Kiowa. He actually won the Pulitzer for a book called The Way to Rainy Mountain, and he tells the story really nice. But I sort of tend to kind of always believe that story. That's what my grandmother always told us, and my mother, and the one I had heard. But so these children were playing, and they noticed that the boy was chasing them. And as they were running, the boy became more aggressive, and he was slowly, as they were looking, he was morphing. And as he was getting closer, they noticed that he started to grow hair. And now they're running frantically, and these 7 sisters, and as they're running, they look back and they see that he begins to grow claws and fangs, and he was turning into a bear. And as he approached them, and getting closer, they run upon a stump, and they were praying. They were praying to the Creator, you know, for the stump to, or just to protect them. And then the voice they heard told them to stand upon the stump, and so they did. And as it climbed up into the sky, the bear then approached which became like a like a tree, basically, but not necessarily a tree, but it was just this big shape as it was growing higher and higher. And the bear grew in stature, but he couldn't overcome the girl, so he went around it and clawed it, you know, up and down, left and right, just constantly trying to get to the girls. And that's the shape that's actually out of Wyoming. It's Devil's Tower, which is a famous monument out west, and that's the story of Devil's Tower. And so the girls then were translated into the what we would call the Big Dipper, or the Pleiades, the constellation there, which is to the left of the image. In Kiowa lore and in a lot of tribes, they call them the Seven Sisters. Is the name of that constellation. But actually, it's also called that, which is ironic. It's known as that actually in the world, in other places, not even just in North America, Native Indigenous peoples. But anyway, so the painting is really the story of a dancer dancing to the song of this, telling the story is what this painting is.
That's beautiful. And tell me, you know, we've heard from our cider makers sort of what their inspiration is or where they get inspiration from. Tell me about where did you find inspiration to this piece and other works that you do?
Just sometimes I love history, really, all sorts of history, even history and anything, really. I just love history. And I just think it's important to always tell history, you know, whether it be the last 100 or 1,000 or whatever. I think it's important. And this was just a part of our culture. It's a story that's just known as it's a Kiowa story. And I think it's important that it needs to always be to the front, you know, into the discussion as far as a story that's part of that culture for, you know, great grandkids and et cetera, you know, people beyond me to be able to it doesn't need to be lost in antiquity, you know, and certainly aspects of it have already been lost. There's a lot of questions about that story, you know, as far as there's still missing parts of it. And we don't know the song, but at least what we do have intact, you know, we can at least maintain that. So the inspiration, just preservation. I don't always do that kind of work, but I think it's a duty of mine to be able, as an artist, to need to be able to do that. If I was a singer, then I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead. If you were a singer, you would do the same thing. You'd rely on sort of.
Yeah. I think talking about Travis again, that's what he's really good. He's really good about preserving songs. And it's just important, you know, for all cultures, not just ours, but whatever culture you become of, to keep it and to keep an understanding of it, and keep the fire lit, you know, somewhere. So there's a base you can always go back to and know where you came from. And there's a lot of lessons I think learned in there too. Obviously, there, you know, a lot of people think 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago they were dumber than we are today. But I don't know. You look at the Great Pyramid, and I think we have to stop, reevaluate.
It wouldn't be that hard of an argument to maybe flip that around, right?
Right. It would not be at all.
Tell me about, and I want to mention to everybody, you know, feel free to comment or ask questions. We're getting some great comments around the pet nat experience that Melissa is having. And Michael, for you, I was curious to know, what's the medium here? Is this acrylic? Is that oil?
That's kind of funny. I mainly paint in oil. This one's it's an experiment. It's on board. It's acrylic, but it's also oil, but they're not mixed. So you can do oil on top of acrylic, but you can't do acrylic on top of oil because it won't last. So some of the colors that are vibrant, I needed the oil because they're just going to be more vibrant than acrylic. And nice. I had this at a gallery that I had in a different location downtown in St. Pete. And I had a lot of people come in, and it was something that I spoke about. And so I wanted to be really vibrant. And I thought, well, how am I going to do that to get these colors? Because the acrylics just don't quite cut it. And so it's a little, so it's both really. It's a mixed media of acrylic and oil. And I was just, careful with the process. So
it's wonderful. How long was the process, and when did you do it? When did you? If you said that, I apologize.
I think that one was maybe like a year before COVID. I think I did that one, something like that. I had to somewhere around that neighborhood, maybe 2.
Did you find that did COVID affect your work at all? Did you find that you were telling other stories or inspired by different stories?
It's funny about that. I actually spent a lot of time painting, and there's a couple of parks that I was frequenting, and I just would set up and paint. I painted all the time. I got a lot of paintings done. So, I mean, I know it was a serious time, and some things aren't funny about that at all, but laughing just about the fact I was able to at least paint, And,
of course.
Yeah. So it didn't really affect me from an artist standpoint, from far as being productive. I think I might have even been more productive, actually. My mind was just focused on that at the time, and I didn't get COVID until towards the end of it all. I got it way after that last big wave, I guess you call it. So the first wave, I just sort of isolated with just a few people and painted,
That's great. That's great. I mean, we all have to find a silver lining, and it's great that you were able to use that for that. That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in your chat. Melissa, are we back on?
I have a quick question. I have a quick
question.
Oh,
yeah, Eric. Yeah.
Awesome. Michael, do you know, is there a Native American name for Devil's Monument? And I did read something recently about potentially renaming it. Is that something that's...
There is. I used to kind of know that name. I wish Travis was here because he probably would know it. But the thing is it's not just sacred to Kiowa. It's sacred to lots of indigenous tribes up that way. So I don't know what language they would choose for it. I think that to rename it would be a good thing. I think to name it back to what it was, something that it was called a long time ago, wouldn't be a bad thing at all. And to bring back some of that history to go along with it. It is a pretty sacred spot to natives. It's actually very sacred. And so I think that it would be a good thing to bring back the sacredness of that anyway. I know some spots and times have changed and we have to change with those times, but there's some things that we could reevaluate and look at maybe bringing back. As obviously Mount Rushmore was a very super sacred spot, and that's the reason why they defaced that, but you can't change that now. I mean, it's been changed and it's got presidents' heads on there, But Devil's Tower would be one I think that they could consider maybe. I know we're getting way off topic here, but I do think that that's a good question, Eric, and I think that a naming of it would be a good thing if it were possible.
It's a great question, Eric. Melissa, can we hear you? Are you back? You're on mute.
I don't know. Can you hear me? I am embarrassed at the level of. No, I'm not. It's totally par for the course. The level of technical difficulty. If you can't hear me, just kind of some. I just wanted to say what the key mistake was with my pet nat very quickly, which was I think is very clear. But I bottled it with a little too much sugar, so it fermented to a little too much carbonation for what's appropriate, in my opinion, when you open something. And yeah, Mike, I totally appreciate your comment about the pet nats. I would suggest it means we all have a lot to learn, because I think it's a good idea not to have something explode, but it's not dangerous. I didn't mean to make it sound dangerous. That was a bad time to cut out. And I really like the pet nats for the low intervention that they allow me to maintain. That was the other thing I wanted to say.
Excellent.
Good question, I think.
Excellent.
Yeah. I was going to ask if we're going to show more of Michael's art if we have time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. We have a few more minutes. And again, people feel free to drop your questions or comments. Michael, I want to I'm getting a bit of an echo. So I'm going to mute. There we go. Perfect. Michael, I think this is the other piece that we wanted to look at. Was this the other one?
Yeah. I can tell you a little bit about that one if you like.
Beautiful.
So that one is his name's White Bear. Satanta is what I guess is how it's transliterated, but it's Satante, and it's actually means white bear in Kiowa. He's a war chief, He's actually my mother's. She's my mother's dad's dad. He's a grandfather through that. He has a reputation. He's called the Orator of the Plains. It's kind of a title that some people gave out in the West in the 1800s. But the painting is symbolic. It has a lot of symbolisms. One is the war shield that he's holding. That actually you can. I believe it's at University of California at Berkeley. I think that's where it's on. I think that's who owns it now. But the war shield is easily available to be able to reference to. His dad, named Red Teepee, was a medicine man, and he actually is the one that made that war shield, probably in the early 1800s, maybe late 1700s. In the back is buffalo carcasses, and that's all telling the story of he was part of the signers of the Medicine Lodge Treaty there in Kansas, and where I think that had he had known, of course, what their motives were and what would have transpired, he wouldn't have signed it. But I think the contemplation on what was said, what was signed, and what actually happened is kind of what this painting is about. Showing him holding up his war shield, but also the buffalo robe on him is symbolic of the fact that the buffalo is, for Kiowa people, it's very important because it was not just food, it was shelter, it was clothing, ceremonial. A lot of things evolved around the buffalo that was very, very, very important and a center in a lot of ways. And so I had him clothed in that. In his hand, he's holding what they call the peace medal. Presidents and different dignitaries, congressmen, different people like that would present those to other chiefs and things through history. And I think even back in the 1700s, they had them. They're called peace medals. I couldn't figure out which one he had because there's a tintype. There's a few tintypes of him. So to be able to get a picture of him is not super hard. But on one of them, he's wearing that particular peace medal. And I thought, well, I couldn't tell which one it was. And there's various ones, and I wanted to make it as accurate as I could. So I got on the Smithsonian website. I did some snooping around, and I found a gentleman that he just nerds out on these things. And there was one that was of Lincoln, and he was facing the direction that head is facing. And I could see in the tintype that there was a little bit of a curve for the neck. And I was able to match it up with other ones that I found. But then also there was another gentleman that was related to him that went to the Medicine Lodge Treaty as well. And he was wearing one, and I could see it clear. But it still wasn't quite sure, but I could tell it was probably that one. And just doing some other reading, and that I just came to the conclusion that it was that one. So he's holding that medal to he was wearing it proudly in the photograph. In this case, he's clasping it with his hands to kind of show his disdain or his, he's rethinking the whole process. And now he sees that war would have been more inevitable to fight them because at the time, the United States military wasn't able to defeat the Native American west of the Mississippi because they were already battle-hardened men, and they knew the land, and so they could only defeat them through false treaties or through not to get off on all that, but disease and other things.
Right.
But hand-to-hand combat, there was no comparison, and so they had to go these other routes. And the tribes knew that they could defeat them. They didn't look at the American soldier, and they didn't really fear them or their rifles because they knew that they had the rifle, they could get them, which they did eventually. In some cases, they got them, but they knew that their ability to be hidden and be able to know the land and camouflage techniques and their war techniques were a little more superior than some of the Britain and European versions of lining up and the way that they did it. So that's what the painting is about. It's just
Beautiful.
his mindset.
Well, and I think your choice to have him holding the medal, but yet it's not completely visible, and we're not quite sure you know exactly what it is. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful statement, really. Honestly, it's really striking.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is a painting. It's large. You can't really. It's probably a few feet tall at least.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Is it in your gallery in St. Petersburg?
Yeah, that one. I've had a few offers. I sometimes I think about it. I don't want to sell it, but I'll probably bring it to the show. It seems like it always kind of travels with me.
Wonderful.
That one is kind of an important piece to me, you know, from the standpoint of I just like the story and the fact that he's a relative. I think it's important to.
Of course,
tell the story.
It's beautiful. And is it acrylic or is it oil?
That's oil.
Oil.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. Really stunning. I look forward to seeing it in person at some point very soon. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Michael.
Thank you. Really thanks for all the ciders. Really, I've been enjoying that.
I mean, this has just been incredible. We got a question from Allison about if there's a list of Finger Lakes restaurants that carry Finger Lakes cider. Before I answer this question, I'm wondering if the three of you cider makers in the Finger Lakes, is there a list of restaurants?
I don't think there's a list.
No,
but
no.
I'm just gonna say two off the top of my head that I think are great, and are like incredible promoters of cider. So one is in Ithaca, and it's Lev Kitchen. On the Commons, they serve like Mediterranean-inspired food, and they have really amazing cider list and wine as well. And then the other one is Graft in Watkins Glen. And again, I can't say enough good things about their food as well as their cider and wine lists. So it's my 2 cents.
Excellent. Eric, Melissa, do you know of any others that you'd want to mention? Graft was definitely on my list.
Yeah, I second Graft for sure.
Yeah. And so I shared this, Allison. It's a fantastic question, and it's something from the Cider Association perspective that is absolutely a goal of mine this year. We have some tools and some things that we're rolling out, so stay tuned for that. But on those lists, I want to very much include restaurants. And being at Sylvia and Woodstock on Friday night was a huge inspiration as well, because there are places who are big champions of New York cider and thinking about it and pairing it the right way, which is really nice to start to see. So I want to start to highlight those places. So that list will be coming. Melissa.
Oh, I also second Lev. I didn't mean to sound.
Yeah,
they're
of
both
course.
great.
Melissa, did you have a thought?
Oh, this is the marketing part, the business part, I guess. I just want to say, because half of our audience here had stuff shipped to them all over the country, you know, there is a way to get your local favorite wine shop to carry Eves or Redbyrd, which is to tell them to look for the distributor, Skirnick or Core. And I just want to point out that I think for cideries of our scale, those kind of things actually really make a difference. Of course, the direct reach is better, but yeah.
All of it.
I have my stuff. This is basically the only way to get my stuff. So go, you guys.
All right. Well, this has been a phenomenal session. Before I start to wrap it up, is there anything else, Eric, Autumn, Melissa, Michael, that you want to throw in?
I was just thinking, after listening to you talk, Melissa, about the Finger Lakes National Forest, I just had this like brain like flash or whatever, you know what I mean? But like, it would be so cool to like put together some kind of artist residency like in the Finger Lakes National Forest. Anyway, it was just a thought that I had.
That's where this whole art project's going, huh? This is where the video that we're working on now came out of the last one. So, Michael, you've done about this, right?
Iterations. It's like iterations, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
We can put together for June. We're definitely going to need to take that. I feel like one thing that would be fun is to take the artists that come around on a tour. We want it. Obviously you, Michael, and Travis, and I'm assuming you guys will come early, but yeah, maybe we can think that through a little more. Adam, I love it.
It's a great idea.
Take over the National Forest somehow. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I am gonna just start to wrap this up, and just first and foremost say thank you so much to all of you, Melissa and Autumn and Eric, for the work that you're doing. Not only producing just some phenomenal ciders that I believe to be some of the best in the world, but also just the work you're doing around this work of artistry and the Native American culture and all these things that we're thinking so much about, and providing access to resources and access to opportunity in a really special and meaningful way. I think that's pretty exciting. So thank you for that. And Michael, so phenomenal to hear about your work. I can't wait to learn more about it and see some of those pieces in person. I'm really looking forward to being at the Native Conversations FLX show. Hope I can make that happen. It's definitely a priority for me. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be really special.
It is. I appreciate the opportunity, and I think this is really a good thing. So I enjoyed being on here. So
wonderful. And so I had put in all of the posts. Yeah, Melissa, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm having audio. I was just going to say we will have a cider bar at the, we're fundraising through the bar for the Native Conversations. So if you're marking your calendar for anything, June 2nd, we're going to have a big opening party. And if there's performances, that's probably when it'll happen, I would imagine. Probably right, Michael? And there'll be a cider bar featuring our 3 cideries again.
Awesome. June 2nd. You heard it here first. I'm putting it on my calendar right now. Excellent. So thank you all so much for joining. Again, I'm Scott from the New York Cider Association. This has been amazing. We've had Autumn Stochek from Eve Cidery, Melissa Madden from Open Spaces Cider, and Eric Schott from Redbyrd Orchard Cider, all in the Finger Lakes, Ithaca area. And Michael Jon Morgan, our amazing artist, has been a part of this as well. So thank you all. All of the links are in the post that you're watching this on, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. You can certainly click in there. Or if you have any more questions, feel free to email me. This video will go live up on YouTube. We'll post it up there in perpetuity in the next couple of days, so you can look for it there as well. So thank you all so much.
I have a really quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hope this isn't too disruptive, but for any of the people that are listening to this broadcast right now, Melissa and Michael, is there going to be any type of digital, is there a way for people who are not in Ithaca to interact with the art, maybe purchase the art, see the art? Is anything like that happening?
That's a great idea. We should make that happen. That's a great idea. We can talk about that.
The History Center, I don't know if Ben is still here, but the History Center, you saw it, Michael, right? The History Center has a 3D tour that they offer of the space, which they sent to us as we were trying to figure out the space. So maybe we can work on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can get that to happen at least once the show is set up to kind of take a tour. Yeah, thank you, Adam. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So my mic just went out. So that's a good timing, I guess, since we're having all these audio issues. Again, this has been so phenomenal. And you can stay in touch with all of us via email and keep connected. And June 2nd will be the opening for the show, which we're looking forward to. And we will look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Scott, for great facilitation again.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks.
And thank you so much for coming.